Martin, I think we'll start with you. Can you just explain to our viewers when and what is tax year end?
Even just putting in whatever you can each month, you'll benefit from the pound cost averaging, but it's going to help you moving forward. And again, it's tax free.
The effect of compounding, especially over a 20-30 year period, on not just only your contributions but your tax relief in there, can make a huge difference. Well, if I've got some cash, where do I put it, Martin? So, should I put it in an ISA? Should I put it in a pension? We've talked. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening when you're watching this podcast. Number 108. I can't believe, Martin, that we're at 108. Yeah. Wow. Greg will tell us off for saying that, but I cannot believe we're at that. Unbelievable. Welcome, everyone, to the Do More With Your Money podcast. We've had a good panel today. We're talking about allowances in terms of tax allowances, coming very close to tax year end. So we thought we'd take advantages of giving our customers an understanding of what they can do and take an opportunity of how they can do it as well. So I'm joined by a familiar panel. I think you've been on the podcast before. I haven't been on the podcast for you, Martin.
This is my third one, but it's my first with you, Jamie.
This will probably be your best.
Probably, yeah.
It'll be an adventure.
It will.
It will. It'll be good. Good fun. Good fun on the podcast.
It will be. And Jeff, you're most likely sick of me being on the podcast or sick of being on the podcast.
Not at all.
A bit like a television star these days. You're doing that many videos and webinars, and
it's good for us. It's good for our clients. We should be out there talking about what's happening in the markets at this point in time. It's a real challenging backdrop for everyone. So being out there talking about it is really what we need to do.
I think it's, and we'll start with a plug quite early actually, because I think that's a good point, Jeff. The videos and the content that we're producing for clients. We now have got morning markets, which we run every morning with one of your investment team. But there's some other videos that you've been doing within the team, just to sort of give a bit more flavour and content with what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's just really to bring to life the backdrop that we've got, but also the partners which we work with.
Yes.
And really highlighting the new funds that are coming into the True Potential portfolio range, and bringing that closer to all of our clients, letting everyone see it, understand it, get a view on the managers that we're working with, which is great for us, and we want to roll that out for all of the managers that we're working with.
Excellent. And Sophie, it's your first time on the podcast this morning.
Yeah.
Can you tell our viewers what you do?
So I work on the customer care team, so I help our clients that are serviced by us here at head office, with things on the site, things, the general servicing, booking them in for appointments, things like that.
Excellent. Yeah, I think probably a lot of our customers have maybe heard your voice, are going to put a sort of face to the name and the voice. So Jeff, we've got an interesting week in the markets. I think we've had an interesting year in the markets. Yeah. Talk us through what's going on.
I think that's right. The year has certainly been interesting in year to date, and we're only just into the third month of the year. Really, this week it's been very much a continuation of the backdrop that we're all very familiar with in terms of the news flow of Russia, Ukraine, and I suppose it maybe seems a little churlish to talk about financial markets when you reflect on what's going on there. And just listening to the radio this morning, 4-5 million people that are displaced, and that's certainly playing into how market sentiment is evolving. Market sentiment has very much been driven this week by the potential that there was going to be some negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, and we saw that day on Wednesday where Euro Stoxx 50 was up sort of around 7.5%. You have to go back to 2008 to find a similar move of that magnitude. And really that narrative is playing its way through in terms of commodity prices. You will all see what we can see in terms of petrol prices. The oil price has been very volatile this week. It's up, just looking at crude this morning, it's up 43% year to date. But that doesn't take into account the volatility we saw during the week. So a barrel of oil touched $130 on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then all the way back to 111 just this morning. So the volatility that we're seeing in commodity prices in particular is very real. Natural gas as well, that's another one.
For viewers, Jeff, because it's an interesting one on the oil, just before you finish off, when does that sort of start to hit them in the petrol pump prices? Because that's when people look at oil, they kind of,
it certainly will, and it became very real to myself this week when I was on, I think was it Tuesday, I was I filled up and it was at 157 a litre, and then drove past the petrol station yesterday, it was 161, and drove past it this morning, it's 164.
Yeah.
So there is that real input price squeeze that you're seeing in commodities, just driving its way into the familiarity for what we are, and
Yes.
that feeds into this other narrative that we've been discussing around inflation and the energy impulse or energy input into that we're seeing is really quite significant, and it feeds through everything that we see in terms of energy price bills, the cost of transportation then, so chance of moving goods around increases, and that has to be absorbed by someone and typically is passed on to the end consumer. So that has really been something that we've been focusing on, very evident to just the market, how that's driving it, and that's really fed its way into how bonds have behaved this week, with yields moving out, and equity markets, not too volatile in the overall scheme of things. If you look at it on a week, we're down about 1.5% as we speak at the minute in terms of Europe. But clearly, you've had a day where you're up 7.5%. You've another day where you're down 2.5%. You've a day when you're down 3%. So really, over the week, it's been volatility to the fore, but driven by news headlines and the real challenge that we've got with the Russia-Ukraine situation playing its way through.
Yeah, it's interesting. News headlines do drive markets.
Well, it's psychology, isn't it? It makes people, and it's often, and I would say not often, it is probably the wrong time to react. Yeah. Because if you think about what I've just said there about how equity markets have performed, one day you might have come out of the market right at that bottom of that 7.5% rise that was about to come through. So trying to time things into that is exceptionally difficult, exceptionally challenging.
I think it's interesting because we joke about this a little bit, which is, Jeff, when is the market going to go back up, or when's it going to go down? And you're an expert in this, and you have a team of people behind you. You can't predict that. You can obviously use all your data and all the tools to sort of look at where's the best place to diversify your portfolio, but you can't predict these things.
No, and
as an expert,
the diversification is the core aspect. Yeah. That is, when you step back from everything, that is the one aspect that really does work, because asset prices move in different directions. They have different profiles in terms of how they move. If one might move in a positive direction, another might move in a negative direction. That two things working together or at different times really is what we want to build with the True Potential Portfolio Solutions, thinking about how diversification works for our end clients.
Yeah, no, great. Thanks, Jeff. I think a useful summary, and just another plug for, if you do want to know a little bit more about the markets, you're here every morning, on the morning market video. So just another second plug
sign up
I think it's worth looking.
And watch, and make sure that your email is set up in your account to get the daily commentary that comes out at times from us. We're there. You'll get the commentary. So just make sure you're set up to receive that as well.
Yes, personally, I looked on Tuesday on the app, and I'd seen the new Pictet Funds video had popped up on my feed. So there's a new feed, Sophie, within the application where people can see content.
Yeah, it's really, really good, and it does sort of, if you watch a lot of similar videos, it really does pick the ones that if you watch the morning markets a lot, when you log in, it will show you the next one. So it's really handy, and then you can just click straight onto it, watch it, on your phone, whatever you want, whatever you're using. It's quite quick and easy. And
the great thing is, we see your face every morning, Jeff.
Hopefully not every morning.
Well, most mornings. I think we're in the team.
Well, they're my favourites anyway. The ones with Jeff, of course.
I think so, yeah. Ditto. When he's not here next week, we'll say Chris is the favourite.
Yeah, or when George is here, then George is the favourite.
Yeah. So. No, I think George is my favourite.
Ah, well.
So he's my favourite as well.
Yeah, well, I think he's everyone's favourite.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Anyway, we'll take off from that a little bit. Right, let's get back to the topic of the podcast today, which is tax year end. Martin, I think we'll start with you. Can you just explain to our viewers when and what is tax year end, just to give some people an understanding of that first before we start looking at products?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's essentially the last point where you can use your ISA allowance, which is £20,000 for the tax year, before we then go into the next tax year, and obviously this resets. So naturally the thing to do is, before tax year end, and you miss out on using your allowance and getting that tax-free benefit, then put in as much as you can. But then what I would say as well, when we look at tax year end, it's probably one of our busiest times of year, because naturally people will leave it till the end of the year and say, oh, I'll do it now, or I'll do it before April to make sure that it gets in there. But then if you consider tax year start as well, you've got to think, well, actually, why leave it till the end when you can do it at the start? So what we'll probably see is a lot of people using their ISA allowance now, and then as soon as we're passing into the new tax year, people are also using it then as well. So
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like buying Christmas presents. You know, you've got full year to buy Christmas presents, but you buy them on Christmas Eve. If you remember, but I think
if you're as organised
as we are, but actually it's the same concept, because it's this thing called tax year, and I think it's quite interesting why we plug a little bit at regular savings, because you know, we're talking about ISAs there, so from an ISA perspective, you've got a tax-free product, you know, in terms of growth of tax-free of up to £20,000 a year, and actually the ability to maybe just put a little bit in every month, getting the benefit of pound cost averaging during that period.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, there will be people who can use the full ISA allowance in one go, which is fantastic, to just put £20,000 straight in an ISA and use that benefit straight away. But I'd say even just putting in whatever you can each month, you'll benefit from the pound cost averaging, but it's going to help you moving forward. And again, it's tax free, and obviously with the increases in tax and all the other sort of cost of living that we're seeing as well, based on
the other side of it, it's pound cost average is important, but it's also the power of compounding. So actually putting things in that little bit earlier, you benefit slightly more from the compounding effect. So moving away from lump sum to on a more frequent basis can benefit on that side of things as well.
And I think we plugged this before, Jeff, but if I put £20,000 in 5 years ago and maxed my ISA allowance, what would it be worth today?
Be around £26,000 today.
So just shows you that level of, you know, using your tax out, and that's tax-free growth. That you just
based on using the balance fund, thinking about 6% annualised growth. That's where you get to tax-free.
Yeah, it's good to put that sort of thing in numbers. I think if we're just kind of going over how do you do this. So if people want to, you know, right up to tax year end, if people want to put money in and max, or even, you know, just put little bits in on their allowances, how do they do that within their ISA?
Yeah, it's really easy. It's just using the feature called impulseSave on the site. So that lets you make a payment straight into your policy, and just using your debit card like you would if you were to buy something online. And you can save the card for later, you know, if you're wanting to make regular payments, make it that bit easier. You can do it straight from the app on your phone. Literally takes a few seconds, or on the site, and you can put in as little as £1 upwards, and it goes straight in. So you can actually make this payment pretty much right up until a minute before midnight on the 5th, so before the 6th on tax year end. But it is important, if you know you were going to make the transfer from another policy, for example a GIA, that needs to be done a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So
actually, that's an important point, because if you do have a general investment account, which is, you know, typically the basket of TPP, etc., and you know you want to filter money from that general investment account to your ISA, that's actually a good sort of way of just efficiently, we call bedding ISA, bringing money from your general investment into your ISA, you know, putting that into a tax growth environment. Be aware of that you know, taking £20,000 out your general investment account it can trigger a capital gain event on that £20,000. So you do need to be aware. Typically, it could be within your allowance, but if you've sold property or anything like this, or art like you, Martin, you know, you're an art dealer.
Or my portraits as well.
Yeah, portraits. Then you've got the capital gain level that you need to think about that. I think it's interesting that we talk about the ease of putting money in. We talked about impulseSave there, but actually, let's just talk about the direct debit side of things. So you can do that via your site as well, Sophie?
Yeah.
In terms of setting up a regular contribution?
Absolutely. So say if it was going into your ISA, you just go onto the site and click on your ISA policy, and there's then a button for edit monthly investment. You just click on that and put your details in. It would set that direct debit up and take out for you monthly then you don't have to think about it really.
Yeah. No, great. I think that's a good way of saving. Personally, that's something I've set up and built it over that period. Even if you're thinking about coming into the next tax year, even if you just want to get that started, if you've maxed your allowance, you can do that and start to get that regular saving. So have you got your alarm set, Martin, for 12:15 on the
last minute deadline for me, like transfer deadline day? That's the way that I'll have a yellow tie on for that. Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, what I've been doing, and again looking at the technology we've got available, I a couple of years ago used an ISA And the long term goal for that was paying for the wedding in July. That's coming up for me very fast.
Yeah.
And it's a case of just impulse saving, just as and when I can, always to make sure that I'm going to meet that goal of, well, the large sum that I'm paying for that wedding, which is unsurprising. But again, like, I can keep a track of it on the client side. I can contribute towards that as well and benefit from the tax-free growth in there as well, and of course in Jeff's portfolio.
And I suppose there's the other side of it as well, is setting yourself that goal.
Yeah.
It's not just thinking about tax year end, it's about how do we think about over the long term, what is the aim of that saving.
Yeah.
So if you set yourself that goal, how you want to achieve it becomes more straightforward, because you're using the benefits of ISAs and tax planning to achieve that. But it's just, this is what I want to achieve.
It is. I think that's a really valid point, actually, Jeff. So you have there's two sides of things here. It's setting your objective with your money, what's it for, and then using the products around that to try and help you achieve that objective in the most tax efficient way. So we always laugh about me wanting to set, it was Australia until I had a son, and now it's school fees. So it's sort of long term goal for me. So the best way of doing that is put in a tax free environment, grow tax free. When he turns 10, I don't know, who knows, 6, 7. When do you go to school these days, Martin? You'll know this. It'll be a long time for you.
Don't know.
4.
So it's a bit younger than 10.
So I'll have to say a bit sooner. No, I'm only joking. Now, so it'll be like 4-year-old. You start to think about that. But I'm interested when you talk about your weddings. There's a lot of impulse spending goes on at weddings.
Yeah.
I found everything was £1,000 when I was. It didn't matter what I did. It was like cot £1,000, flowers £1,000, chair seat covers like £1,000.
Yeah.
It just everything was.
Well, a cake for £300 is one that I've been quoted, so I just turn around and say I'm going to make it myself. I'd like to think I can do it for less than £30, but when it all goes wrong, I'll just be like, yeah, I made that one, which I actually bought secretly, so we'll see how well that goes.
You need a backup plan, because if the cake's a disaster,
just always go to the local supermarket, get one from there.
You'll be off to Greg's.
You will. Greg's,
the big donuts.
Just get caramel donuts.
Or it might be the other way. You might be on the British Bake Off before long. If
Maybe.
It's a great success.
I've had some good cakes in the past.
There we are.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
That's why I've got the confidence, but
we'll
see what happens. Well, I'm good at eating the cake, maybe not making
demonstration on the podcast.
Well, what I'll do is I'll do a practice run of making the cake, and then I'll bring it in for everyone, and you can all be taste testers for me.
Sounds good.
If you're feeling brave enough anyway.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a little bit of competition. There's in your team that do a bit of a bake-off. Is that what goes on?
Oh, yeah, it gets quite competitive. We've had gingerbread men dressed up like the Newcastle football team, and yeah, it's quite a big event.
Have you noticed we've never been invited to participate in this?
Not yet.
But
I would only be impressed if the gingerbread men were wearing these nice
the
potential gilets. That's what I want to see
that's
next.
An idea for your next top tip. Grace, if you can get it. Right, let's move away from gingerbread men and cakes. Right, next, so we talked about ISAs and GIAs, which is great to see. Let's talk a little bit about pension contributions. You know, one of my favourite topics. I think that even Annie tells us off for talking about pensions too much. But Martin, let's just talk about what you can do from an allowance perspective within your pension before tax year end.
Yeah, of course. So the annual allowance is £40,000, or whatever your salary is. Obviously, below £40,000. If obviously you're at the higher end of the scale and over the what's called the tapered annual allowance, it can decrease the amount that you can pay into a pension. But I'd say, again, like the ISA contributions, it's something that you need to do regularly, not just through yourself, but employer contributions as well, which will be paid into the pension. But you have to, not necessarily, again, we'll go back to saying, can you put £40,000 straight into a pension? It's probably quite unlikely. If you're regularly contributing, again, you're benefiting from the same pound cost averaging, but also tax relief from the government as well. So certainly worth sticking as much as you can in your pension, probably once you've utilised as much of your ISA allowance as you can.
Yeah.
So
I think it's worth linking that, you know, some good points there, man. I think it's worth linking it back to what you said before, Jeff, where you're setting a goal on your retirement. So, you know, you've got the effect of compounding, especially over a 20-30 year period on not just only your contributions but your tax relief in there can make a huge difference. And I'm not saying it needs to be, you know, max up to your 40,000 if that's what you're able to do, but actually just the extra sort of £50 to £100 a month in your pension can make a huge difference from your salary.
And it's also the fact that it's not the compounding is enhanced with the tax benefit that you get as well. So I think one of the key things there is to always remember that what you're putting in is increased by that contribution coming back in from the government effectively, and that's something that we should all use, because who knows how long that will be there. And so we should always think about how to get that maximum contribution back in from the government.
To take advantage of that. I mean, the other side of that as well is the carry forward rules as well. If you haven't maximised your annual allowance for that, well, you would need to use it for the first tax year, but then you can look back over the 3 previous tax years and any unused allowance and potentially use that to make further contributions as well, which is certainly a good thing to take advantage of if possible to do so.
I think what I would say, and from this perspective, from a financial advisor point of view, if you're considering, you've got some cash and you're looking to say, where do I put it, and your retirement is an option for you where you don't need sort of hold of it straight away, speak to an advisor and get them to do a calculation on what you can from a maximum perspective contribute to your pension, because if you don't put the right amount in, they can have the opposite effect. So it's worth having a conversation, because the benefit of tax relief is obviously significant, especially on employee contribution, but actually for directors and business owners within our viewers today, there's benefits from other taxes in terms of corporation tax, etc. if you're putting employer contributions in. So just have a think about that, and if you do wish to discuss that, speak to your financial advisor. From a business perspective, we always find accountants are telling our clients to pop employer contributions in their pension. It's normally, by the way, 11:45.
Yeah.
They have it hard, by the way. They have the accountants will have the sort of the tax word I'm thinking for you, your tax return end in January, and then they've got tax year end in April. But actually, it's worth just considering that as a business owner. If you haven't thought about that and you've got cash surplus in your business and you're looking to get it out,
that's the complexity of these things, and why it's important that if you're not fully understanding of it, call into the team, get to speak to an advisor, and really work it through, because you don't want to miss something that is there, or that something could be really advantageous to look at as well. So the power of advice, dialing in, just using phone, video chat, whatever, to talk people through is really important. Yeah,
and pensions can, there's some simple parts of it, but there's some complicated parts of it, and that's why I think it's worth speaking to an expert at it, especially with the allowances that you have. And as I said, if we just talk about the goal setting side of things as well, Sophie, just talk a little bit through about what you can do on your website from that for your pension.
Yeah, so from a technology point of view, you can set your goal up on the site, so it helps you keep a track of it and see where you are. So you can just click onto the policy you want to set a goal for and press edit goal. This is just for your reference, so it wouldn't actually change the policy at all, so you can edit and change this whenever you need to. So it would then show you how far away you are, maybe how much you need to be contributing each month to reach that goal in your given time period. So then you can edit it, so if it wasn't quite right. And again, in regards to the contribution sides of things, if you weren't sure how much you'd maybe contributed in this year so far, you can also see that on the site in the fees and contributions, and you can filter it, so it just shows you exactly what you've contributed. So you can get a picture of that as well in regards to your goals and where you're at.
Yeah, I think that's the useful point, just seeing, what actually have I put in, and just kind of skipping back to an ISA point that I probably missed off before, is you've got the flexibility nature of an ISA, Martin, where if you've took something out of it during that tax year, you can replace it, so you can have actually a little bit over £25,000. So if I took £5,000 of my ISA, I can tell you put £25,000 in as long as it's done within the same tax year.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah, so a flexible ISA, which the true potential ISA is, it can come out and then be put back in. So that's another good point and well remembered as well, because I'd forgotten about that too. So,
and we'll come to Jeff's favourite product now, junior ISAs, which I believe you've set a couple up now as advice. So you've obviously got the benefit of junior ISAs as well if you're looking to pop some funds in for your children, so they can, I don't know what they do when they get it when they're 18, so they can just blow it or whatever. I don't
hopefully
know.
Not. That's not.
But that's not
if we set a sensible goal on it, hopefully we'll get there. And I suppose that's the other thing, you can set multiple goals as well. So depending on different products, we can have different goals set up as well. So the goal for my boys will be different than the goal for myself. So we can certainly you can accommodate that, and the beauty of the technology, you see it all in one place.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful in that regard.
I've always thought from the JISA, the junior ISA point of view, that'll be his first deposit or his car. You know, when he gets at that age, he'll have that money, or even just help him get a place for university.
University, whatever it'll be.
You know,
there's always something that they'll be able to use it for.
And these allowances are especially a good thing in terms of looking at other sort of planning as well, Martin. So like in terms of inheritance tax planning, using these allowances, it's worth speaking to an advisor about this.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's £9,000 for a junior ISA, which I think in the past it was around 4,200. Which, when you think it's more than doubled in the last few years, it's certainly something to take advantage of. And again, it's future planning for inheritance tax and obviously planning for your kids' future as well. And why not do it if you've got the allowance to take advantage of?
I think so. We talked about the product.
I think just the other thing on it as well, you can use it as a way of educating your kids around saving. So it gives you that advantage as well of moving into thinking about what we just started the conversation around, setting themselves a goal. Obviously they can't have the app, but they can see their account through yourself, and you can also then show the power of actually making monthly contributions and just saying, well, it's a really good habit to get into. And just if you see that, and they can see the evidence of the growth that comes with it.
Plus it's on the phone as well, which all kids will have their hands glued to as well. I mean, me as well. But they'll be able to go in and see that you're using the technology, the app and impulseSave all just through the phones. They'll probably think that's great as well. So again, it's tying in with what they're looking at already, but they're learning from it too.
And I think that's the key point. It's technology that they use, but they learn from as well.
Yeah, of course.
So do you pop like a tenner in the JISA or £10 in their ISA once they've done the washing the car or doing the washing?
It's quite hard to get them to get to that stage just yet, but I think that's my goal over time, to say, look, there you go, you can put some money in, and you can see the benefit of that over time. But they still value having money in their hand to go into the shop and buy some sweets.
Well, Jack's 18 months and I've been trying to teach him how to empty the dishwasher.
Has it got any better from the last time?
No, still not there. He just kind of points and tells me where to put things. So I haven't paid him for it yet. So he's not, because until he can complete the job, I'm not going to do that. But actually, it's quite a good. It is a good way of thinking about things. We talked about this at a couple of podcasts ago. Really good. I think we were disturbed by Daniel Harrison behind us there as well. He tends to just appear on screens behind and try and put me off. But great. I think we've kind of finalised. I think just one thing we'll just finish off there is just order of where you would. I think people go, well, if I've got some cash, where do I put it, Martin? So, should I put it in an ISA? Should I put it in a pension? We've talked about the different contributions.
Yeah.
But how should clients kind of think about that when they're looking at their investments?
I think if you need to consider your objectives really and what's most important for you, because it could be retirement planning. That might be dependent on your age or your mindset. You might think, well, I should probably look to contribute more towards the pension. But then you might think, well, actually, I've got a good pension in the background, so maybe I could utilise the ISA allowance first and start with the £20,000 in there. I'd say definitely between the pension and the ISA would be the first port of call to use the tax advantages before then maybe considering a general investment account. But I'd say for me personally, I normally look to put what I can in the pension first, and then I'd look at the ISA allowance. But I don't know if
for me, it's about when do you need the money,
Yeah.
and if you don't need it, I've got a little bit away from retirement. So if I don't need the cash and I don't want access, I'll stick with my pension.
Yeah.
If I potentially need access to it, then I put in my ISA. But I would always think access to me is anything less greater than 5 years.
Yeah.
Because if I need access to it less than 5 years, I would say you shouldn't invest, because it's a 5 year period.
Yeah.
At least 3 to 5 years. So I think it's the access side of it is the key area for me. And when you're just sort of thinking about that, it's just worth speaking to your advisor as well, because we kind of go back to it, but sometimes you kind of just need that little bit of conversation and say, what do I need this money for? What's the objectives? And just revisit it and what you.
But it's revisiting that point around access.
Yeah.
What is it for? What's your goal around that? And that will typically dictate how one wants to deal with it.
Yeah. I think it's you might not know this yet, Sophie, so I'm asking you a question here, but we are actually going to be opening some Saturdays. I'll just give you a surprise there. Before tax year end, if just to help people if they've got any questions, we'll announce the hours prior. You'll see in the next couple of weeks, but we'll be sort of available at weekends as we approach that, just to help people make sure they maximise their allowances. It should be an exciting time, if that's what you want to call it.
Well, a very busy time.
Busy.
Coming in on a Saturday morning to do ISA allowances just sounds fantastic.
Sounds well signed up, Martin, I think.
Well, I mean, I'm always happy to help, you know me.
Well, I think it's either sign up doing ISA allowances or wedding organisation for yourself.
Well, I mean...
Be careful to say here.
I think I'll go and help with ISA allowances.
It's a pretty stressful time, I know that. Okay, let's finish off now. I think it's a really good sort of understanding of allowances. I think we'll finish off in true potential style, which is what you're doing at the weekend. So, Jeff, I think I'll start with you.
For me, I'm going to be watching some rugby, hopefully, at the weekend.
You're watching rugby, Jeff?
It's an Ireland-England game, so it's an important game for me.
Right. Do you think it's going to win? Because you did the same with Scotland and we got beat that time.
I think Ireland will win.
Do you?
Yeah.
Is it in Dublin, is it?
No, it's at Twickenham, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah.
It'll be a good game.
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to win the Six Nations? You've got a blue tie on, so maybe that's telling us who you think.
No, who will win it? I'll stay with Ireland, actually.
Yeah, I think the French.
Probably in my head says France.
I think the French will win it this time.
Yeah.
And Sophie, any plans for the weekend? You're not working this weekend, don't worry. It'll be a few weekends away.
Or not yet.
Not yet.
No, not yet. I'm going to York on a hen do, so
Oh, wow.
Excellent.
busy weekend.
Yeah, that does sound very busy. You get the train down there?
I am, yeah, in the
That's
morning.
So is it a messy weekend or a busy weekend?
We'll see.
Yeah, it's always good if you drink something. It's not too far for us, isn't it? Travelling to York from Newcastle.
Yeah, not far
So
at
it's
all.
not too bad. Well, enjoy that. And Mark?
It's birthday celebrations for my fiance.
Is it?
So it's probably going to be a messy one on Saturday and then a not very nice one on Sunday. So
Are you like whisper ages or not?
I'm just going to keep that one under wraps.
Right.
She watches this, I don't want to get
Yeah.
in trouble. I've already said one comment I'm probably going to get told
Does
off
she like
for,
show her
so-
friends the video and go, that's my future husband, and it's
No.
famous. No.
No. She just watches it and she'll probably say, well, if you don't want to go wedding shopping with us, then fine. Gonna get in lots. Can we edit that?
Yeah.
No, we can't. Can we put that at the start? That would be even better. I have no plans actually. I'm gonna go out for a bit of dinner tonight. My weekends are normally instructed what I have to do rather than what I would like to do. But Newcastle are playing on Sunday against Chelsea, so
Yeah.
I'll probably try and watch
Good
that.
result last night.
Yeah,
as
it
well
was a
for
good
Newcastle.
result last
Yeah.
night. I think we'll be talking about Newcastle win the league this time next year in the podcast, Jeff.
Possibilities, isn't there?
Just bring there's
Yeah.
all these sorts of possibilities. But great, thank you everyone for a really useful session. Hopefully people found that entertaining to some respect, but actually understand how you can use your allowances now. And just kind of refinish on it and just really, if you need any help from us, we're here for you. Even if it's to discuss your investments and keep an eye out for the videos that we produce, or if you want to discuss a little bit about your allowances that you have up to the sort of the tax year end and after. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Subscribing to the True Potential YouTube channel is quick and easy. Simply go to the channel on your desktop or through the YouTube app on your phone and click the subscribe button. You can then press the notification bell symbol if you wish to be notified as and when new videos are released. Doing this is a great way to keep yourself updated with market developments and personal finance insights. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed, and we look forward to continuing to help you do more with your money.